There's been a lot of activity on the high seas of Southeast Asia, with the Philippines and China moving around an area known as the Scarborough Shoal. Beijing claims it as Chinese territory and has controlled it for the past decade, backed by Coast Guard ships and fishing boats in the South China Sea that most security experts consider proxies of the Chinese Navy. Manila, in turn, has insisted its fishermen have the right to continue to access those waters and, in recent months, have backed up its warnings with action.
Philippine Coast Guard divers cut an underwater cable and unmoor a 300-metre floating barrier that China placed to prevent Philippine fishing vessels from accessing the Scarborough Shoal. A gesture that underscores Manila's growing defiance of Beijing's claims to the prime fishing grounds. The tiny mid-ocean outcrop, seized by China in 2012, has become a global geopolitical flashpoint. China claims the lagoon as part of its sovereign territory. The Philippines is stepping up efforts to protect its rights to fish inside its exclusive economic zone. The Scarborough Shoal is closer to the Philippines, just around 100 to 150 miles, while it's around 500 miles from China. Why are they stopping us from entering? Since Ferdinand Marcos Jr. became president last year, Manila has restored security ties with the US, raising Beijing's hackles. Strong ties to the Philippines provide Washington with a chain of Asian alliances that stretch from South Korea and Japan in the north to Australia in the south. Scarborough Shoal figured prominently in a case the Philippines took to the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague. It ruled in 2016 that China's claim to most of the South China Sea had no basis under international law. China does not recognize the ruling. In response to the Philippines' action, the Foreign Ministry in Beijing reaffirmed China's claim over the shoal, pointedly referring to it by its Chinese name. Huangyan Island is China's inherent territory. What the Philippines has done is nothing but a farce for its own amusement. China will continue to safeguard its territorial sovereignty and maritime rights. Situated close to shipping lanes that transport over $3 trillion of annual commerce, control of the shoal is strategic for Beijing. China has backed its expansive claims by building man-made military islands and naval patrols. Beijing's claims have strained relations with not just the fishers of the Philippines, but with its other maritime neighbours like Vietnam, Taiwan and Malaysia. China is casting its net wide.
Joining us is Aries Arugay from the University of the Philippines. Dilman, thanks for coming on the program, Aries. Just to underscore to viewers in other parts of the world how much is up for debate, even the name South China Sea, which is widely used internationally, but I understand it's not what people in the Philippines call it, right? Why is that?
Well, the Philippines is not claiming the entirety of the South China Sea, but what is only entitled to the nation by international law, primarily the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. So that part of the South China Sea that is where the Philippines has sovereignty and sovereign rights, we call it the West Philippine Sea.
So we have this dispute on the high seas. Why is China 500 miles away claiming sea waters much closer to the Philippines?
Well, China, despite being a signatory to the main international law instrument as far as maritime boundaries are concerned, which is UNCLOS, has said that their claim is only something that they inherited from the Kuomintang party that used to be the party in power, or at least during the time when China was still not under the Communist Party. They also make historical claims that China has been fishing, or at least has jurisdiction over these islands, or at least that part of the maritime sea called the South China Sea for more than centuries. But these claims have already been invalidated according to international law when China signs UNCLOS, as well as the deadline for the filing of any of the claims had passed a couple of decades ago. So I think what China is attempting to do is really apply geopolitics here. The South China Sea is not only a crucial gateway to countries in Southeast and Northeast Asia, but if you would look at it, it's a critical maritime zone for China to be able to secure its national security. Particularly, it perceives that the South China Sea is part of this series of waterways that is surrounded by the allies of the United States, from South Korea to the Philippines in the south.
It's very fascinating that international court case that the Philippines brought to the United Nations against China on this dispute. I wonder, why is this new president of the Philippines responding differently to China than Duterte? Because essentially it's been the same threat, but it seems like the Philippines is pushing back harder now.
Right. Well, I think if something is clear, is that the past 6 years since the arbitral award was handed out favorably to the Philippines vis-a-vis China, is that Chinese behavior and aggression towards Filipino fishermen, Coast Guard, and other entities that are in our sovereign maritime waters are the same. It's continued bullying despite the very pro-friendly accommodationist and even you may call defeatist policy of former President Rodrigo Duterte. So I think the new administration realized that whether we be friendly or not, even if we take China to court, Chinese behavior has been constant. So why continue to be friendly? Why continue to treat China as a friend when China's behavior is nothing compared to the friendliness that the Philippine government under Duterte has extended. So I think what changed really is that the realization that whatever we do, Chinese aggression in our part of the South China Sea will continue. So at the end, the Philippine government just decided we better assert what is ours by international law. And our foreign policy should be less about how China will react to anything that we do to protect our national interests.
Aris Arugay, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.